On this Wednesday, the 8th of October, as we're getting into the month proper, the first week of the month already done, and things are happening as though we've been here for a while. And we're getting into another conversation this morning. Dennis and Dennis with you. And as we get into these conversations, very happy to have you with us. Our live streams are up on YouTube, Facebook, and on X. And even as you're tuned in different frequencies around the nation, our audience on KTN also here as we continue with these conversations. SHA 1 year on. The questions about what's working and what's not is the conversation that we have this morning. Two guests to join us this morning, and even as we look into it, there have been many conversations around what SHA looks like, what it works, who it works for, who it doesn't work for. But let's interrogate this a little bit more, because it's been 1 year. October 8th is when we saw the initial rollouts, and October 7th, October 8th is when we saw the initial rollout under a different CS, of course. But now as we're getting into it, it looks like maybe going down the mountain. Let's see. The Reverend Joseph Kariuki is the Vice Chairman of the Rural, Urban and Private Hospitals Association, RUPHA. He joins us this morning for the first time in the Situation Room. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Great.
Karibu sana.
I appreciate it.
Good to have you in the room this morning, even as we get into these conversations. And thank you for then making the time to join us to discuss this. You'll be joined in a minute by Duncan Mathenge, who is the Nyeri Town MP. He's also a member of the Health Committee of Parliament. And so we'll be looking at some of these things as he gets here this morning. But we're going to start off just to get a broad understanding, or to be able to deepen the conversation a little bit. But before we do that, we normally go to a different African country every week. Don't ask us how we do it. The law of physics is this is how you apply what your physics teacher said while you were in school. So we get into that country and we come back with their proverbs. Dennis actually does all the legwork, so he's going to share the proverb. We'd love to get your interpretation of it.
The proverb today comes from the Republic of Togo, whose capital is Lomé, and the official language is French. Now, it's a country with a population of around 9 million people. And its flag colors, green, yellow, red and white, symbolizing hope, wealth, courage and purity. But let's go to the proverb. It is better to walk than curse the road. It is better to walk than curse the road. How would you interpret that?
Wow, a tough one. It is better to walk than to curse the road. I think what it essentially means is that you need to try. Even when the journey is tough, you don't seem to, see a headway, but you need to try, keep moving by any means. Sure.
You need to just keep moving. Well, yeah, that's definitely a way to look at it. Thank you for sharing that with us. We're going to look into brick and mortar issues. Of course, we're going to look at more subjective issues. We're going to look at quite a number of things. And the slogan, and I don't know if it's one that we can or not be proud of, is that over the last, give or take, 6 to 9 months, the slogan has been SHA is not working, right? And before that, there was some confusion, and what we're told is that there are teething problems, of course, in getting a new system in place, then being able to make the shift from NHIF to SHA under the Social Health Authority, and then getting things moving under the Social Health Insurance Fund. And all of these things happening seem to have caused some confusion amongst people. Who does it work for? Who does it not work for? Where can you be guaranteed that you go to get care, and then not have to pay for it after having sorted out your premiums? So these are some of the things that we look at under the 1 year. And then add to this whole basket of what would be confusion. There are very many caregivers, medical providers, medical service providers that are unpaid to the almost 80 billion shillings. And this is from previous debt under NHIF and current debt for services offered under SHA. So this just paints a little bit of a picture as to where we are. An overview from you, Reverend Kariuki, in terms of what it has been. I mean, under RUPHA, which is where you sit, what has the last 1 year looked like?
Sure enough, like you have painted a picture, it has not been easy, especially for providers. And when we say providers not being easy, then it affects even the Kenyans out there. We have had many challenges, rightly put. Every time you start something new, you expect some teething challenges. We've been struggling with them, went through them, And we got to a place where we can say that this thing needs to be rolling by itself. But the more we go in, the more we get into deeper and deeper issues that are difficult. And what I can say as at now, where we are 1 year down the line, is that much of the problem is not even systemic, but like they are designed. So it makes it difficult to fix a designed problem rather than a generic one.
When you say it is designed, what exactly do you mean?
What I mean is that towards the end of the year, you find that some of the challenges that we are going through as providers are actually things that we can fix. They are not as difficult as when we started. But it appears like there is unwillingness of some people to adjust so that we can make the bad situation good. Yeah.
You talked about teething challenges.
Yes.
And just like any other project, you would essentially then expect, especially if you have a mass rollout, to get yourself into a number of these issues. Do you feel, because there's been the argument, and I've heard C.S. Dindwale before stating, and even former presidential advisor Moses Kuria before he left, saying that, guys, we acknowledge that there's some challenges, but give us time. This thing eventually is going to work. The idea around it will be the best thing for this country. How long, in your opinion, if you look at the rollout where we are today, are there still issues that should have been resolved a long time ago, or are we backpedaling? We are stagnating. We are essentially not necessarily moving, despite the acknowledgement that, okay, there are issues.
Well, there is movement, but the problem is that every 2 steps we make forward, we make 3 backwards. So still there is movement, but it's not progressive.
Yeah.
And like we say, we acknowledge teething problems are there when you start something. And all of us gave ourselves to it. The government, the providers, and every stakeholder to make sure that we fix these teething problems. And we have done that over the year. As an association, we have done our best, including giving feedbacks to SHA and MOH and the government on various things that we feel are not working well. In the 1 year of SHA, we have given 9 feedbacks. In fact, we just released the last one that we call SHA at 1. All these are intended to help the stakeholders fix the things that are not working and keep on doing the good things that are working. Yeah.
So we look at SHA and its implementation and where we are at the moment, and we have to go back to where we started from. So SHA was moving from NHIF, and one would argue that before the rollout of SHA, enough public participation, piloting of the same would have taken place so that we fix the teething problems, and any other thing that would come later would be matters arising. But at the time when these discussions were there, just how invested was RUPHA in this system before it was actually launched?
RUPHA was very much involved. We have to give credit to government on this. From when it was an idea, when they said we want to shift, and we gave our whole to it. We have participated virtually on every public participation that was there. And we gave our views. We have documents upon documents. And we kept on adjusting and changing, because when again you hear other people, you want to align. And since the end game was to have SHA work, we gave it our best. But the problem is a number of the things we said were never taken into consideration. Yeah. And you can remember, for example, a statement by the former CS, Nakumicha. When this one went through, she actually thanked Parliament for passing the bill as is, without changing even a comma. You know, that statement tells you a lot. Yeah.
Is it therefore, do we therefore speak from a position where the problems that do exist today are things that had been seen before. Attempts to rectify the same had been given, but they were never picked up.
That's true. That's true. If you look, for example, what I remember very fast is that there was a proposal. Since we had 3 funds, ECCIF, that is emergency and chronic illness. We had primary health care, and we had the social health. These 3 funds, the 2, PHC and ECCIF, are government funded. SHIF is the one that we contribute. So we actually propose, why don't you ring fence the SHIF? Since this is a private citizen's contribution, it needs to be, ring fence such that that money is not used for any other thing. But what are we seeing now? They discarded that, and they started using the SHIF to pay PHC, to pay ECCIF, and that money cannot be enough. The reason why there were 3 funds is because that needed to be distributed as such. And the exchequer, many times, they have failed to put in their money at the right time. So SHA ends up using the SHIF money. And if that law was there, then maybe something else would have happened.
Okay, so it's clear that over the year, that there have been very, very many blocks to having a process that has been clear, that has been, void of confusion, too many questions. That has riddled the process for a long time. And the former, and we name them because that's who they were. The former CS Nahumicha, she was talking about a new system coming into play before she left the office. CS Baraza at the time came in, and the rollout of SHA then was under her, and it was completely confused in terms of what was going to happen, who was going to go where, who was going to do what. Maybe there seems to be a leveling out of that now under CS Agent Wale. We don't know yet to see, but maybe things are opening up a little bit. But can we really call them teething problems? I have children, and when we say you're a doctor, you know as well that when teeth come out, they have a little bit of irritation. But guess what? The tooth comes out. The tooth grows at some point, and that irritation period, the bumpy road, the fevers, the whatever, goes away, and we move. Can we have teething problems for a year?
Not possible. And like you put the chronology of events. Where CS Duale sits today, he actually sits at the most advantaged position any CS for Health ever had. Because the first 2 actually were the ones that were hitting the rocks. The Nakumicha during the public participation and all those things that were difficult, passing the bills, and then CS Mulongo, in the implementation and launching. Now CS Duale has come in when all these things has been done. Surely he has no reason not to excel in this. That's why I say some of the things that you see him do, you wonder whether it's by design to fail or something. Because all the teething problems are supposed to have been sorted by now. And we need to see this thing taking shape. And one of the ways, simple ways, is by hearing advice and even criticism. Take criticism, look at it, sit down with people, spend your time on boardrooms rather than behind a microphone, and we needed to have been at a place right now where all of us are agreeing at least on 70-80% of the matters SHA.
And what are some of those issues we should be agreeing upon? All right, it's clear at this point. If you're paying your premiums of whatever the price should be for if somebody is in employment, 1,000 plus so many shillings per month. Then there's the 300 some people pay. There's a 600 others pay. There's 1,000 plus that others pay, and it kind of goes up. If one of the things that we've heard, and tell me, do you agree with this or not? If we had more people paying their premiums, not just registration, because this is a pooled mechanism. That the system, the authority is based on a pooled mechanism. And it's also based on the understanding that not everybody is going to be unwell to the same degree at the same time all the time. And that's why it works like this. Insurance works like that. So that if we put this money in a pool and we know that some people are going to be sick and going to use that money for whatever the case may be, that we're going to go in this pool where you keep paying in and we keep treating people and it keeps coming back. Now, if you don't have enough people paying, those pooled resources dwindle. And if you have the same people paying over and over again, the likelihood is that you will get people going to medical facilities at some point. And if, like many of the RUPHA facilities, you've given services and you've not received money, the chances are that I will come back from that experience saying that SHA is not working without having understood what's going on in the back end. Do more people need to pay for us to see a leveling out of these issues?
Exactly. I should tell you that one of our strong recommendations to SHA is that we should have more people paying. As we stand, SHA is collecting about 5 billion, and the payout to facilities is 9 billion a month. So there is a deficit of almost 4 billion every month. Where are you going to get this money to cover up? So one of our strong recommendations to SHA and MOH was that allow people to register. Yes, now they say we are about 26 million registered. Allow them to register, but go ahead and tell them after you have registered, pay. And because if they don't pay, then the pool will continue to shrink as the numbers increase. So we've told them one of the ways of mitigating this gap of 4 billion monthly is by having more people paying. That is in our recommendation. Another thing that we told them, because much of our problem seems to be finances, we told them remove this thing called proxy means testing. These many questions that you are asking people and then you determine how much they should pay. Once I know that what I am supposed to pay now is much more than what I used to pay under NHIF, I will discard it. Especially when we were told during the campaigns that we will be paying 300 shillings. And then it turns out that I'm supposed to pay 800 shillings. And then it turns out that I'm supposed to pay all of it for a year at once.
Because they were trying to mitigate this thing, whereby look, the thing is, if everybody, let's say the 26 million people, that's about half the population, isn't it? If the 26 million people, and let's just round off a figure and say that 26 million people every month were paying 300 shillings, right? That brings us to about 780 billion shillings. Abi?
No.
Right? 26 million people paying 300 shillings per month. If everybody was paying that amount of money, we would not be having these problems. You know what we would be able to do? It's mind-blowing that everybody would walk into hospital when they needed to and they would get treatment and you wouldn't have to pay an extra shilling after. This is just 1 month payment. And that you could take care of critical care. You wouldn't even have to do like what this tier 3 is when you're looking for donor funding coming from outside to take care of critically ill patients. That everybody would then be able to do that. So that we could actually see what the money would do. But that doesn't happen. And it might sound like I'm playing devil's advocate here, but I'm just trying to understand now why they say pay a year in advance. Because it means that they would have more money in the pool to take care of the folks that need care now. And then to be able to pay people like RUPHA. But that doesn't happen. Could that be the reason why they don't pay RUPHA?
Absolutely. The reason why they don't pay is because they don't have money.
There it is.
We can't explain it better. And I've just told you one example where you collect less than what you're paying out. No business will survive like that. And from your calculations that you just shared, you will realize that if we pay a specified amount, because we told them remove these proxy means and give a specific figure, like it was during NHIF, it was 500 shillings for a family. That 500 shillings multiplied by the 26, you realize that they will be collecting more than what they are collecting now, almost double. And yet the amount is low.
So 7.8 billion essentially is what they would
Sure.
get. If 26 million people were paying 300 shillings a month,
That's,
they would have
2.8 more than what they're collecting
currently
now.
collecting, right?
Yeah. So, and if we make that our running call every day, the way we are telling people register, and we tell them register and pay, we will not be in this problem for long.
Okay. Now, part of the money that's owed to RUPHA, sorry about that, part of the money that's owed to RUPHA is not from October last year. It is from NHIF days. What was the problem as per why that money was not paid before? Because it's RUPHA today, it's other people tomorrow, it's other medical providers. Why was that money not paid?
First of all, my friend, we have tried to move out from saying there is NHIF debt and there is SHA debt, because when SHA came in, it took all the assets and liabilities of NHIF.
Okay.
NHIF is now defunded, so all these debts are actually SHA debts. It's only that they were accrued at that time.
Okay.
And one of the major reasons that money accrued from 2017 essentially is because, number one, the government agencies were not paying their contribution. They were deducting their staff, but they were not submitting that money to NHIF.
Okay.
Take for an example the teachers. They had a special scheme under NHIF, enhanced scheme. The police had an enhanced scheme, and many other parastatals. And when they left NHIF to go to a private insurance, they left that gap there. Essentially, it was running to almost 30 billion. So that is actually where the problem started. We had programs like Linda Mama, which was government funded. We had programs like Eduafia, programs for the indigents and the poor. You know, that was supposed to be paid by the government, which money was not paid to NHIF. So what happened? NHIF then would use the contributors' money to pay for these bills. And that is why we came up with this reasoning that SHA should come up with a law to ring fence the shift contribution under SHA, so that we don't go back to that problem that we had in the last dispensation. And so we see where the problem began. And it didn't begin from the contributor. Neither did it begin from the provider. It began from the government.
Let me ask, is there a point where we need to stop the train from moving? And we say, okay, you know what? Let's stop everything. Let's sit down. Whether it's going to take another 1 year, let's see what we can fix. Because from what I'm hearing, there's just mitigation upon mitigation upon mitigation. Now, just the other day, President William Ruto said that the government will pay SHA for 2.2 million
For the indigents.
yes. So, and I'm just looking at the whole idea, because this is not something that he thought about when, you know, SHA was coming into force. This is an afterthought after realizing, wait, the actually people are not paying, the people are still needy, and we need to keep this thing moving. So what do? Let's take a quick break, and then anybody who wants to contribute, because at some point he actually mentioned an anonymous philanthropist who pledged for SHA coverage for at least 113,000 Kenyans. And the president also was beseeching members of parliament and saying, look guys, please follow suit, support with your finances, support. So it looks like tumeingia mchango. So tumeingia mchango. So if Aseto has a million somewhere, lying somewhere, please Aseto put that 1 million into SHA. If Undu has 10 million, please out of the 10 million, put 7 million into, and any other agency or any other persons who are willing to express their interest in supporting the program. And that for me is a problem, because are we stitching a bandage and like what you call a small bandage on a very big wound? Is that what we're doing?
That's what we are doing, actually. But I should say we need to commend the president for coming up with an idea, albeit late, to take care of the indigent. Even in the Bible, we are told that the poor will always be with you. And so it's good to have an idea, a plan, how we can handle these things. And as much as we laud that effort, there is need for a plan, a design, something to be worked on, how we are going to collect this money and help these people, because it will come from our taxes. It will come from the exchequer. So that idea on how to raise that money is what we need to have a round table and discuss about. And as providers, we have suggested several ideas that we can help, including having something like a health tax. Taxes are too much, but if that is going to help us sort this thing, we can add a shilling in every commodity that we use at home as a health tax, and it will help the exchequer raise money and do this thing. And when we are getting the service, it doesn't matter how many tax we are paying. The problem is when we don't get the service and we are paying the tax.
So, Reverend, I want us to look at the situation at hand, right? So we talk about the debt that RUPHA is owed. So there is also patients who come to the hospitals to look for service. But I want to look at the service provider. With this debt, how are you running businesses? Because Kenyan who's seeking service does not understand why these facilities are sending them back home. Just paint a picture as to why you have gotten to the wall that you're no longer able to offer services using SHA.
Well, that's a very good question. And actually, if you would not have asked, I would have asked to answer it. Because we are actually... our back is against the wall, and for us to come and tell the country that we are not able to do this, the country needs to know that we have really tried. We are carrying over 80 billion debt owed to us by the government. That's a lot of money. Every day we find patients coming to the hospital to be treated because their politician or their leader say, register and go to the hospital and you will be treated. Now, when they come to the facility, we do our best. We treat them. But when we treat them, we don't get our commodities on credit. We don't get the latitude of going 60, 90 days credit. Most of our credits, by the way, is 30 days. And so we get to a place where we can't get more credit. We have gotten to our maximum, and we still need to offer this service. We still need these commodities. At the same time, we have our employees that we pay. That nurse, that doctor, that clinician that you come to see needs to be paid at the end of the day. We have some of us rented premises that we have to pay every month. We have loans in the bank. We got some money from the bank to have this equipment, this machine here, so that we can be efficient in our service. We are still servicing this loan. And above all, we have statutory deductions, including SHA deductions. Yeah? And when SHA itself takes 3-4 months without paying, and they are pushing us to pay their own by the 9th, we are really in a difficult situation.
So what happens when, because this thing is so layered. So right now, as you're talking, the government is proposing sweeping legal reforms that will then compel private hospitals to admit critically ill patients in emergency situations. So the amendment then is going to outlaw the long-standing practice that we've seen, where a hospital will then detain bodies, for example, for unpaid bills, or it's an emergency situation, but you're told, okay, do you have an insurance cover or do you have money before we even put you on any bed? So we are seeing this is going on at the same time, this crisis and issues, but then legally there is an amendment that is going to then put all these things into this context. So whether you have insurance or no insurance, you have money or no money, you have to attend to that patient. And still, we're talking about having debts. You can't pay you can't pay your bills because you're owed money. How is this going to work?
It's gonna be difficult, but it can be made easy.
How?
This is one thing. Looking at our constitution say every Kenyan has a right to the highest attainable care of health. The only problem that it doesn't do, and it's not the problem of the constitution, is actually the problem of MOH, is that it doesn't say how that service will be paid. You have the right for the highest attainable healthcare, but it doesn't go ahead. But the Act of Parliament is supposed to do that, to tell how that bill will be paid to the hospital. That is what we want happen. When they bring these bills, we have no problem. And as a matter of fact, RUPHA is also preparing our submission for the same. I think it's by 27th or whatever, when we are supposed to go and take our views. We are preparing a document for that.
What are you going to propose, to counter or propose? Because what this bill is then doing is compelling emergency care. It's banning detention of hospitals. And they're saying there's a penalty to this. So private health facilities, as we know, like I said, they insist on cash deposits or an insurance cover. If passed, if this bill is passed, what it then essentially means, hospitals found in violation could face very stiff penalties, including loss of license and prosecution of responsible administrators.
Well, it is important to note that emergency care that they're talking about is a 24-hour thing. Beyond 24 hours, one is supposed to trigger the insurance if they have SHIF or any private insurance, or pay cash. So that 24 hours is our interest. And what we are proposing is that the government also ought to be bound to place their ECCIF fund with SHA ahead of time, because we never know when an emergency will come. And if there is no way to compel government to do that, then they shouldn't compel the hospital to give that emergency service.
Because it's not going to be practical.
ECCIF is exchequer funded.
Yeah.
So if you're telling me to attend to an emergency, who is going to pay for that? It's the government. So can we have also an assurance, putting this in consideration, that this hospital is actually a business. We don't get our supplies from KEMSA or from wherever place for free. We actually buy them. So we need to have that fund set before we can pass the bill.
Are you working, as you take your submissions on the same, are you planning to counter that on the basis that as much as this is what the government says must give emergency services, that we also need to have our own statement within that policy that says the government as well must pay within X number of days, and failure to do that, such ABCD actions will be taken?
Actually, that is what should happen. And that is actually what is missing now, which we should mitigate. Because, for example, like I said, we are supposed to pay our SHA deduction by the 9th of every month. By the click of midnight, that money ought to be with SHA on the 9th. When we fail to do that, there is a penalty. And 1 minute after midnight, you will pay that penalty. But what penalty is SHA given when they fail to pay after their 90-day? Nothing. So these contracts and this loss must be balanced. They should not be lopsided. We should look at it at a level playing ground, such that if I don't do this, these are the repercussions. If you don't do this, this should be the repercussion. That is what we should be looking at. And I believe that all the stakeholders now are brighter enough, they are more educated and knowledgeable to push those kind of reforms. And if government is not going to take them, then they should tell us what is their plan.
So where are we now? Because we seem to be we seem to be going round in circles, and there's no clear direction in terms of how this is going to go. Most recently, we did hear that private hospitals are being asked not to ask folks to pay when they come to the hospitals, but offer them care. That would mean that a payment system had been triggered. But from what we're hearing, that hasn't happened. has no payment been made to RUPHA in the last 3 months? Has no payment happened? Is there no conversation that, okay, we're going to start to chip away at this big block of owed dues?
That is the problem. I really want to say that a number of these issues can be sorted over a boardroom discussion. As we speak right now, we have PHC that has not been paid for August, and now we are actually getting to the end of September. And there are also some counties, some facilities that have not been paid actually from June. And PHC is that money that we are saying, enda kwa hospitali utibiwe and enda nyumbani bila kulipa. That is what it's supposed to cover. If that money has not landed in the hospital, all hospitals, for example, for August, it has not been paid. We are now, we have done with, actually it's July, and then August. Now we are in October. That means the September one is also due, and it is not paid. How are facilities going to run?
There's the ultimate question. Yeah. And joining us now at this point is the Nyeri Town MP, Duncan Mathenge. He's also a member of the Health Committee in Parliament and maybe got a little bit lost this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
We heard you found your way to the airport.
Yes. For some reason, the pin that was forwarded to me, and in my mind, it was like, did KTN change location? But unfortunately, I've ended up that side.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to be here. Yes.
Well, we're glad that you're here.
Yes.
And you found this in the throes of this conversation. And of course, by the time things, and I'm just going to throw you right into it because, our time's gone. But as a member of the Health Committee, surely this has been right front and center of the discussions that you've been having over the last couple of weeks, and questions as to why we are having such a problem, because one cannot run away from the realities of the issues around the health sector today. One of them being that who then gets care, and for those who are offering the care, who is paying them.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you sit and debate in the lawmaking house, or to make demands, what are you saying in terms of what actually needs to be done?
Thank you. The first thing is, who do we make demands to? The demands we make to all of us as a country. And we have a problem when we keep comparing the new dispensation, that is the Social Health Authority, to the National Hospital Insurance Fund. You realize that the Social Health Authority, the equivalent of the National Health Insurance Fund, is just one component of the Social Health Authority. The big question that nobody in this country agreed to address, even during the era of NHIF, was the adequate resourcing so that NHIF could adequately settle the bills that were incurred by its members once they had received services across the country. The second issue is that we had disparities within NHIF. And within NHIF, we had the people who are salaried and are civil servants and public servants and teachers and the police, who had what was known as a comprehensive cover against the rest of Kenyans who would pay voluntarily, which was known as the national scheme, where people were paying 500, but who had only literally a bed rebate. Now, it is important for Kenyans to note that the Social Health Authority makes it mandatory for every Kenyan, the roughly 52 million of us, to be provided with health care in compliance with Article 43 of the Constitution. For us to be able to achieve that ideal desire, we must mobilize adequate resources. And SHA attempts to mobilize resources at 3 different levels. One, the primary healthcare fund, which is funded from our taxes. Under the primary healthcare fund, or PHC, you're supposed to walk into a hospital, level 2, level 3, and selected level 4, and walk out, receive treatment, don't pay a cent, your taxes pay for it.
Which to an extent, and it's agreeable across country, to an extent, and largely, is happening.
Sure.
Right now. Okay. But largely, you can go to level 2, 3, and some 4.
Yes.
And get outpatient care. You come out and leave with certain procedures, and that it pays for everything.
Exactly.
That's happening to an extent now.
It is.
All right.
Now, but on the other side, you find that then the rebates to the health facilities that are offering primary health care are slightly behind schedule. But all these facilities have a contractual obligation with the Social Health Authority. And to the best of my understanding is that the contractual obligation allows for a 90 days credit period. And therefore, even as the vice chair of RUPHA says that the money for August is due, it's not 90 days yet, since patients' services were rendered for the month of August. Ideally, if possible, the primary healthcare services should actually even be paid in advance. But for that to happen, we must mobilize sufficient resources. Our resources are from our taxes. How are we performing on the taxation front? That debate we must collectively have, including the owners of hospitals, and here government owns public hospitals. How do we mobilize sufficient funds for the primary healthcare fund?
How do we? You're the budget making folks. Where do you get the money from?
We are the budget making for house. But we only make the budget based on, one, the revenues that KRA is able to correct. And where we have shortfalls, then we have to go out of the box and either look for funding from donors, borrow, or get grants. In the alternative, and this is a conversation that now is, the time is right for this conversation. Can we start raising targeted funds from taxpayers, ring-fenced directly to go towards offering health services?
Separately from what people are being asked to pay every month?
Today, for our roads, we are paying for our roads from the fuel maintenance levy.
And yet, we don't have proper roads.
For our sports facilities, we go to the sports fund. That is the reality of our country. That we have this aspiration and desire to receive the best services that we can get from our government.
Moshimiwa, can we be honest about some things here? Is that even when we talk about funds, whereby road maintenance levy fund, we can talk about that, and we can also look at the state of roads in this country. When we want to look at rural urban roads, when we want to look at highways, when we want to look at the state of roads, and you want to make a comparison between that and the fund that's available every time you put fuel in our vehicles, it's that some of that money is going, and we pay for it. Some of that money is going towards that fund. When you want to look at stadium, don't even get me started on stadium funds, where just the other day we had to float some money in order to put some money into Talanta Stadium.
I have a stadium in Nyeri that is 7 years down the line from the time it started being renovated.
Not finished yet?
It's not finished yet.
Well, there you go. So what's to guarantee that today we're going to ring fence some funds to put aside for health? What is the guarantee that Kenyans then will be able to walk into hospital, get treated, and not have to pay another cent from there if that money is taken directly from taxes?
You see, when we look at the fuel maintenance funds, for example, it's just a question of whether the money we raise from that fund are sufficient for the road network that we have in the country. And that is the same scenario we have to speak about the health sector. once we dedicate funds, that the money raised from the taxes is put into a special purpose account, that this money cannot go elsewhere, then the debate around how to oversight and ensure that this money doesn't go elsewhere is easier to have. Without the basket.
I'm sorry, Dennis, because I know you have a question, but can we operate in a reality for a moment whereby I think Reverend Kariuki said before that it's not an issue of people putting the money aside. People don't have an issue if you can actually see that the money that you've put aside is going towards something. If Dennis's cousin or my sister goes to hospital with a bill of 800,000 shillings, there's no guarantee that if we add some taxes, that 800,000 shilling bill will be paid. The money that RUPHA is asking for is not just August money, is it?
No,
it isn't.
And that is where I want. That is why this conversation. That's where this conversation becomes interesting. When we go to SHA today, and I think 7 facilities that are owners and employees are before court for making claims, falsified claims. That has nothing to do with the funding availability. It has to do with our culture as a nation, as a people, as people in the public sector and also people in the private sector. RUPHA today cannot be good when they are asking for the money to be paid with the same passion and energy that they are pursuing payment for legitimate services. They must pursue equally to clean up their house from these rogue elements. Out of the fraudulent claims, how many of them are members of RUPHA? All are members of the Kenya Healthcare Federation, are members of the Private Hospitals Association, are members of the mission hospitals. And these associations must accept to step up and clean up membership from their house, who then spoil the party for all of us. My last item on this one is also the duality of provision of services by public service employees, doctors, nurses, clinical officers, pharmacists, lab technologists, dentists, who are full-time public sector employees, but they still are providing services in the private sector. Is there conflict of interest?
Mheshimiwa, I want us to talk about NHIF, SHA, SHA the way it is at the moment. So we look at a system that has been problematic from the word go. At a point, SHA offices are closed across the country, and information even to get to Kenyans was not there. But we look at, let's take the police and teachers. They used to have comprehensive cover, and that was removed to them so that more funds can get to SHA, right? But even as we talk about that, there is a feeling out here that perhaps those in the August House do not understand exactly what the situation is. And maybe it's about time that even the private members' private insurance would be taken away so that we all get to use SHA, so that the policies that are passed, you get to experience exactly how Kenyans are feeling when they go to hospital and try to use SHA and it's not working. Perhaps as the health committee, that would be one way to go, so that if you, the president, use SHA just like any other Kenyan, perhaps the system would work. No?
And why not? I am one member of parliament who would openly, 100% support that all public sector health financing goes to the same pool for every Kenyan, from the president to my mother in the village. 100%.
Why wouldn't you make that law?
Yep.
The law today,
Why wouldn't we see a bill coming from Parliament today? Somebody raising an issue, a bill of what is it that you call them? A public interest, a private members bill.
in fact,
to raise a matter like that, to insist that where we are going is not progressive. That this pool is just like we say they should have one pool for education. All these 1 million bursaries all over the place. Let's have the one for health, and that it is mandated. There are countries that do it, and that has come from parliaments who've decided that there is one bill, just like Aseto is saying. Why can't we see if we can have one Mathenge here telling us that we can do this? Why don't we ever have anybody standing up and saying, you know what, guys, enough is enough. Put all this money in one place, and it's mandated by law. Everybody gets treated in hospital in Kenya first.
Then Kenyans are not keenly following their parliamentarians.
Tell us.
The Honorable Sabina Chege, the former chair of the Health Committee in the 12th Parliament, brought a motion before the House.
And what happened to it?
Requiring exactly that to happen.
But what happened to it?
Unfortunately, that motion had very little support
From
among
whom?
parliamentarians.
There's the problem.
And it is on record.
Exactly.
You know the beauty of it?
Exactly.
The beauty of it is that Parliament, for every contribution made, the Hansard captures the contribution of members of Parliament when they speak, when they debate. And therefore, I urge Kenyans to go into the records of Parliament and find out who said what during the motion by the Honorable Sabina Chege. So the attempts in the current Parliament to move to that in that direction have been made, but they have not received sufficient
support.
So
the Parliament is eating itself at the behest of the Kenyan people. Reverend Kariuki?
Yeah, sure. I think Mheshimiwa has brought in very important points, and the issue of fraud, very key. And I think that one should dominate our discussion, if anything. But first, let me correct that the PHC fund is supposed to be paid monthly. The other ones are the SHA and the, rebates, surgicals. Those are the ones who are supposed to wait for 90 days. So when we talk about PHC delaying, we are actually on the spot. Secondly, we had 1,800 plus files that were taken to DCI. And what we have seen is 7 facilities before court. And even if you take the entire 1,800 files and the amount of money that it is claimed they defrauded, it is under 600 million, Mheshimiwa.
It's still a substantial amount of money.
Yeah, still substantial. But when you look at 600 and what we have lost with ghost hospitals that we do not know the owners to a tune of 24B, we are actually just discussing. But this is what I want to say, and say it categorically to the nation, is that RUPHA is very committed into fighting graft. In fact, in our 9 recommendations or feedbacks that we have given to SHA, we have an item of fraud on almost in all of them. And we have recommended. And again, to tell the country is that RUPHA is the only association that I know that has an anti-fraud policy. That you have to sign some documents against fraud as you join. So that means whoever is a member of RUPHA and is involved in fraud, even internally, there is a mechanism that we are going to run to punish them. That is to say that we are supporting the government 100%. And if there is any evidence that will be required from RUPHA to prosecute these facilities, we will provide. That's how serious we are with fighting fraud from RUPHA perspective. The other part is we are only concerned that the CS, or is it MOH, are looking like they are bungling the process of prosecution. For example, the CS has taken 1,800 files to DCI, And when we had the 7 in court the other day, the biggest question that was lingering, that was giving them problem in court, was the issue of the Dispute Resolution Tribunal, which is supposed to be formed by the government or MOH to handle such issues. It was a very big subject in court when these 7 were taken to court. And we are asking, who is supposed to form this tribunal? It's government. Whatever mechanism they need to do with judiciary, by now, 1 year on, we ought to have that tribunal in place. This, when the CS has a problem with fraud, he picks files and takes to DCI. When a provider has a problem with SHA, where does he take that file? We need to have an equal level playing field. We need to have this tribunal in place. I know they are saying there is a bill in Parliament to amalgamate all tribunals or whatever, but before that comes, we shouldn't be having a vacuum. We need to have this dispute resolution tribunal running and have everything internally done. Again, why I'm saying that the CS is bungling this process is that every Kenyan or every person is presumed innocent until proven guilty. These facilities have never been given a chance to explain their part until now that they are in court where they are supposed to be speaking. They were just pigs. They were listed in the newspapers and all the media houses. And the next thing we see is that out of 1,800, we have 7 in court. We again had all their names, published all over, that they have defrauded, they have absconded, they have done many things, and the public now knows that this facility next to me is actually a fraudster, when they have not even been taken to court. Why I say bungling is that somebody can easily go to a constitutional court and say, my friend, I've already been tried in a court of public opinion. I cannot find justice. You understand what I'm saying? And that the court will hear this person. And so we will end up not getting the fraudster because the process we used to prosecute them was wrong.
Yeah.
The other thing is the facilities that were suspended, for example, for one problem or the other. And they were suspended for 90 days pending investigation. Today we have about 2 weeks or so towards the end of the 90 days. Up to today, none of those facilities have been given an audit report of what was found in their facility. So how are we handling this matter? Are we really fighting graft or we are just playing games? We want to support and push our word that we support the war against fraud. And we will not relent, even in the private sector, by the way. RUPHA has been having conversation with a number of private insurances that have a problem with the facilities. We have had such discussion in Meru. We have had such discussion in Nairobi and some part of Western Kenya. We've called this insurance company and say, yes, there is this allegation. How can we help? And a good number of them have settled this matter, even before going to any dispute resolution mechanism. Just sitting and discussing. And this is what we are advising the government and the CS Duale. Please, it will not cost you much to have 10 people from different associations over a table to discuss these issues, as opposed to having 170 providers at a hotel there. Our tea will not be that much. We will be able to discuss these things and sort them. We will just communicate to our members. We're also telling the CS, and Mheshimiwa is here. The Health Committee of Parliament has summoned RUPHA, I think, almost 10 times, if I can remember, if I keep the count. And Mheshimiwa will confirm we have never failed to attend to any of their summoning. We have always been there, and we have given them ideas. We've gone to Parliament several times. We've gone to Mombasa. They call us again and say, can you give us more details on this paper that you presented? And we have always done that. Why is the CS not able to do this? We gave the CS and the country a notice, 14 days. And we had a countdown. Day 13, day 12, day 11, and they seem not to bother. We took our action. Nobody has called us up to now. We are just wondering, are they, or rather is the CS willing to provide a solution to this problem? And that is why I said earlier that the problem we are facing now with SHA are more designed than natural.
Wow. We've gone over the hour, and of course necessary for us to look into some of these things. They are pain points. These are not teething problems anymore.
Yes.
These are actually pain points that are pointing to a deeper problem that of course need to be sorted out, because the outlook looks at this point like if things continue the way they are, that the situation, if anything, is going to get worse. It's good to know that we're looking at payments coming in, even if they're trickling. However, the overall health system really just needs to work for everybody at all times. We're going to continue a health conversation into the next hour. But at this point, we want to thank you so much for joining us. Reverend Joseph Kariuki is the Vice Chairman of the Rural and Urban Private Hospitals Association, joined by Duncan Mathenge, the Nyeri Town MP, and a member of the Health Committee of Parliament. Hopefully, we'll see you a few more minutes into the next hour when we look at specifically Kiambu County and a number of other things with the former governor, Bwana Nyoro. But thank you both for being here this morning for us to then be able to deliberate on some of these issues. Asante sana.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.